You're listening to the Supply Chain Sessions, the Aspas Global Freight podcast, and I'm Kelly Vasey, your host. Each month I'll engage with freight industry specialists to discuss key issues within the global supply chain and logistics sector and talk about general themes and trends in freight forwarding. Welcome to the very first episode of Supply Chain Sessions. Today I'm joined by Oliver Dias and our guest. We've got something very special for you today. We've got a celebrity in our midst. Very lucky to have him on our team. It's Peter Allen, IFW Shipper of the Year 1987. Welcome, Peter. How are you?
Thanks, Kelly. Yes, I'm not sure about the relevance of 1987 anymore, although I was there.
You're still a champion in our heart,
thank you
Peter.
very much.
You're a big winner. You're a big winner.
Yeah.
So, Peter, you have been in the industry for a long time. How long exactly? How many years have you been working in the shipping industry?
Well, more years than I care to mention, as the saying goes, really. Because, I think when you've got 25, 30 years experience, it's something that you might want to tell people about. But I think this summer I've been working for 49 years, so
49 years.
Probably longer than most. Yeah.
So 49 years of experience. Yeah. So we're blessed as a business to have you, and our customers are blessed to deal with you. And there's nothing that Peter doesn't know about the global shipping market. I think we're safe to say.
He was there at the very start. He'll be there at the very end.
Maybe not the very start. I think Trey's been going a lot longer than that.
They were the start of the sailing ships, and actually. They're sort of meant to be humorous, but the sailing ships are coming back around a little bit with green affairs.
They are. We're going to lead on to that.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you, Peter, is obviously 49 years is a long time.
It is. What can I just say though? I mean, when you're dealing with when you kindly say there's nothing I don't know, obviously there's an enormous amount, and when you're dealing with over 200 countries. And wars, riots, civil commotions, political situations, and the changing economies and rules and regulations and shipping lines with different routes. Mm-hmm. You never know everything because every hour there's something changing.
There is.
And you need to...
There's so much to take in.
The Sea and Air team that I work with and for... always need to be aware of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always something new every day.
Yeah, for sure.
It keeps us on our toes, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So can you talk us through those 49 years, not in detail obviously, and let us know specifically what has changed within the world of shipping and freight forwarding sort of and global trade? Yeah,
I think the answer to that would be sort of everything and nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's as forwarders, as brokers, as the word logistics didn't hardly exist when I started logistics companies, but in 2024, call us freight forwarders or brokers or logistics companies. Everything changes and nothing changes. So when I come in and buy and sell freight, that's in a way similar to when I won't linger too much on the older days and bore everybody, but I think I somehow remember this, on the 21st of July 1975, and my boss threw me in terms of buying and selling some freight, and started at 9, and by 9:10 he'd given me the confidence to secure a container to Västerås in Sweden.
That's very impressive.
10 minutes. It was due to the confidence of my boss and guiding me. For instance, when he said, "How much do you think we should put on this?" I think it was about 700 quid even then. I think when he said, "Hey, how much should we put on this rate?" I think I said £2. A little bit more than that, but it was due to the confidence of my mentor and a great man I've got a lot of time for. Malcolm Rogers, who trained me, and I stayed there for 15 years.
Where was that, Pete?
So that was at a company called Inter Euroscan in Aldridge, which is obviously in the West Midlands, and but the same directors essentially within 12 or 18 months had moved on with them to go to Controlo Cargo Services, who exist within a different form today. So the buying and the selling of the freight, the way we do it is different, but not that different really.
You touched on cost there. You touched on cost, and I wanted to talk to you about cost because freight rates are volatile, known to be volatile, and they are up and down. Obviously, during COVID, rates changed. And do you think we're seeing a return to normality, or can you sort of forecast or predict any increases or decreases, and why?
I suppose I'm not sure exactly what normal is, but a more stable environment. I don't think it's unstable the way that COVID was a time, because obviously you had the situation where the ocean freight a year before COVID, say on a 40-foot in from China, was probably $1,800, and I think even industry watchers and people who've been in the industry would be surprised to see that $1,600 or $1,800 go to $20,000, and then over the last, it's gone up a bit since, but with sort of 18 months of the end of COVID, it had come down to it had come down to lower than ever, about $1,200 and has since gone up again. So I wouldn't have predicted that sort of instability, and I'm not sure actually that was obviously it was partly down to COVID, but I think it was also part of shortages of equipment and shipping lines waiting for larger vessels to come in, or possibly even, dare I say, choosing not to bring them in until they were ready, because they were enjoying the higher revenues. That certainly was a time, and without dwelling on that too much, even though I'd probably already been in the industry forever by then, when you saw, I think Asda, in fact, I know they did, and others, when you saw them looking to possibly charter their own small ships away from the carriers, that is a thing, for want of a better expression. So the question was really what changes. Are you thinking about mainly with freight rates, or also in the way that we operate?
Both. I wanted to talk to you about key challenges that we see now compared to sort of historical challenges, and if there's any difference there. Obviously at the moment we've got the Red Sea crisis to contend with. Now obviously we're seeing different patterns. Vessels are taking longer to get where they need to get to. We thought there might be more air freight booked as a consequence, but obviously there were price hikes in that regard. And what we found, I'm sure you'll agree here, is that people are happy to wait in the main. But it's a situation that isn't sort of due to finish anytime soon. We can't see an end to it. So how do you envisage that within the world of shipping?
Well, I mean, again, probably like the COVID situation, the situation in the Red Sea. Whilst all sorts of things have happened within the industry over the years, and they always will happen with political situations and wars and riots and civil commotions and all sorts. Whilst they're always having an effect, I think the aforementioned situation with COVID and this situation due to the attacks on shipping in the Red Sea would probably be two of the biggest things that I've seen in the industry. I mean, I haven't got any stats in front of me, but from when I look at us, we're not really seeing too much of an increase in air freight or air freight inquiries as a result of, in simple terms, the vessels having to go around Africa. It's fairly settled down into almost a fait accompli, because you can look at China Rail and everything, but because when you're sending things east to west in the UK, we're right on the end of it. You might pay you might pay 7, 8, 9, 10 times as much and save 8 or 9 days.
Yes.
So it's not again, like that's not particularly an option that we're seeing people go for. So the situation with the attacks on the shipping in the Red Sea, to use us as a little microcosm, and we do speak to other forwarders and carriers as well regularly. That's quickly settled down in that none of the major container ships, the carriers, are going through the Red Sea.
Yeah.
It's basically, there's a surcharge on the freight for obvious reasons, and there's an extra 10 to 16, 17, 18 days depending on vessel rotations. And that's really just the way it is. And for forwarders, for us, we're always striving, we're in the business of solutions and trying to achieve a solution and move freight for customers and get an edge, really, as are all of our competition. But when you get something like this, no pun intended, we're all in the same boat here, really. So it's a simple situation for us at the moment.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean,
it very much is what it is.
You touched on rail freight then.
Yeah.
And obviously probably about a year ago, we were getting more inquiries for rail freight, sort of into China, weren't we?
Yeah.
But in the main, people are still using sort of a standard sea freight solutions. We're not seeing a huge increase in our customers wanting sort of rail solutions, are we?
No, and not, and a little bit of an increase in our inquiries, but not too much. But rail is an option, and we have a plan to, as you know, to move a little more than we do. But
is the appetite there at the moment? Would you say, though? If we looking at
I think you're saving a little transit time for a lot of money, and that's why I don't think. That's why. Despite what you kindly say, I'm not an industry expert, but we see the trends and what happens every day, and I'm not seeing too much of an appetite to save 7 or 8 days to pay 7 or 8 times as much in terms of shipping, really.
Yeah, and we're finding the same on our European market as well. Obviously, we've always offered intermodal solutions to Italy and Spain, for example, but the client appetite at the moment isn't currently there. We're seeing people sort of obviously looking at sustainability, and they want to make strides, but we think that until legislation comes into place, we won't see a huge change. And again, that's because of the cost element. Like you say, people want it there a little bit quicker, but they don't want to pay that.
Obviously
I've
got my.
It comes down to cost.
So obviously I've got my 24 or 26 or so colleagues who are dealing with European freight, full trailers and groupage and express vans and express other vehicles, and they're dealing with them all day long. But within the Sea and Air department, with our relationship with the shipping lines who are offering short sea solutions to say parts of Scandinavia or Italy or Spain, we of course, from a green point of view, it is a better option. But again, if you are taking something from the south of Italy, it's 3.5-4 days by trailer. If you're then looking at that as against a short sea option, this is only one option here, and possibly a bit of an extreme one, but not too far off. You're really looking at you might have to wait 6 or 7 days in Italy for a vessel, and then obviously it's got to go through the Straits of Gibraltar and around, calling off here and there along the way. So you could be looking at 11-day transit time, and then you could be looking at 5, 6, 7 days to achieve the customs clearance and get the goods sorted in the UK. So that could be, whatever I said, that could be 23, 24 days as opposed to 3 or 4 days. Yeah. So people want greener solutions, but it suits the cargo. It suits certain cargo. Just on this, the shipping lines, if there's 12 major shipping lines in the world, probably 4 of the container carriers 4 or 5 maybe, have got intra-Europe solutions. If people are prepared to wait, then it saves money on occasions.
Absolutely.
And it's greener, which is great. We all want to be greener.
Absolutely.
Just to say, in the sort of changes of in the business over time, you've seen. I have to be careful not to make myself like an antique here, but when I started, there were still. I mean, there still are conventional break bulk shipping options of loading the goods into shipping hold, the hold of the vessel.
Yeah.
Those options still exist as they need to for certain cargo. But I think containerisation was only coming in firstly in 67, 68, and when I started in 75, it was mainly container, for sure, no doubt, but we regularly would look at break bulk conventional services as opposed to containers, so that's a real change. Now, then, as we move on through the decades, what you see is, from a rationalisation point of view, you see the scale of, it's a scale thing, for want of a better expression. So the vessels, the container vessels, have got bigger and bigger. There's certainly less shipping lines around. Most people know on any trade, whether you take the Middle Eastern Gulf or Indian subcontinent or West Africa or East Coast South America, wherever you take, there might be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shipping lines offering a service, but there'll only be 2 or 3 actual vessels. So they'll be they'll have combined carrier agreements. And whatever they call them, slot charter agreements, because in terms of the economies of scale, the lines haven't been able to afford to all run vessels everywhere. The vessels have got bigger. That's caused new ports. New ports have been established over time, and always it's an ever-moving situation. So sometimes there can be a new port built for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes the new ports have been built further down the river, further down estuaries in ports, because the vessels are not able to, they need the deep water. So a bit of an extreme example, but if you take where Canary Wharf is now, around there was King George V Dock, the Royal Albert Dock, Port of London, I think, was the biggest port in the world. Could you get a 12,000 TEU vessel down into Canary Wharf these days? Obviously not.
I'd say not.
So it's moved out to Tilbury. It's moved out further to Tilbury and Gateway.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because it's happened all over the world as well.
It is really
so
interesting.
that is a change.
It is a change. Thank you for that.
Seen,
Thank you for that.
Really insightful.
Yeah. Pete, in terms of sort of global trade, obviously, as a business here, we're moving all over the world. But in terms of inquiries that are coming in and sort of trends in terms of export and import freight, would you say currently we're getting more inquiries for any particular areas, or do you feel like there's a shift? Because we do a lot of work for the Middle East here at Aspas, and also America, and obviously we're doing more Indian freight recently because we're seeing more inquiries of that nature. But can you talk me through what changes and shifts in trends of sort of countries and freight movements you've seen in that regard?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't want to take everything back to 1975, but if I look, yeah, it's first dealing with the East India Company, and no, not really. It's a good question. So trends in terms of trade areas or countries. I'm always conscious I'm going back so far, but honestly, for the first 10 years, China wasn't on the map. Well, it obviously was on the map, but we weren't really trading with them at all.
No, that's interesting.
To say that's changed is an understatement.
Well, that's a huge change,
Yeah, but that's been the case for over 40 years now.
Yeah.
Other areas, well, again, I am going to go back quite far, because when I was first starting, I think it was relatively new in terms of the Middle Eastern Arab. I think they were almost Arab in their entirety, oil states, and because they had oil, there was money. and you saw those states rise. So I've seen that fall off a bit, actually.
You
But
have a
it's-
lot of dealings with
it's
Middle Eastern
still healthy.
agents, though, don't you, personally?
Yeah,
For us,
we
we have good relations with agents in the Middle East.
Yeah, well, we do. I think there's 4,500 freight forwarders in Dubai, and I mean, there are exceptions to this rule, but I mean, as a forwarder, what I find, and I know it's the situation on the whole, even though there are exceptions, you find that the best rates worldwide are negotiated at origin. So we deal with what you mentioned, Kelly, with Dubai and the Emirates and the wider Middle East. We deal with a number of agents who control business, say because UK shippers are selling to them on an ex-works basis. The freight is controlled by the consignee destination, but they will come to us for the freight rates and the whole service, and so that's decent business for us, and we wouldn't be the only forwarder saying that. So yeah, trade areas over time and changes. Apart from that obvious, the comment about the Middle East and the comment about China, the trading areas. I mean, for me, I'm sitting here without any. We're just having a chat, aren't we? I haven't got any particular trade figures in front of me, but so I stand to be shot down by this. But we, as freight forwarders, as a SPAS now, and certainly people I've worked for in previous lives, I've tended to deal with. If you look at the trade areas going east with the East Med countries, with Turkey and with Egypt, and
I was going to mention Egypt because we
yes.
had quite a lot of Egyptian trade, didn't we?
Yeah, we
last
did.
year,
and
we thought that was an upcoming thing, but it seemed to be quite project based.
Yeah, well, I think just to say, before I answer that particularly, so we deal with the sort of the East Med and the Red Sea trade, and then also the Middle East and Gulf, Indian subcontinent, the Far East, Far East and Southeast Asia,
Yes.
Australia, New Zealand, and North America. Those probably, and East and West Africa is fairly healthy as well. The countries, the trade areas we're probably not dealing with so much with ourselves at a SPAS, which is probably a microcosm of what the UK are doing, would be a lot of Central and South American countries, whilst we do some trade there. That's not really changed. So the aforementioned trade areas and countries, they haven't really changed over the years. There's always been a certain amount of healthy export and import traffic there, and I don't think that's changed. But with regard to Egypt, we've I think our Egyptian volumes are growing in a fashion. It's to talk about the East Med is probably not as relevant as it used to be, because Turkey's fairly healthy as a nation, but when I look at the past, and without wishing to dwell on it, whilst we do still ship to Lebanon, we've got shipments going on at the moment. I think, say, Lebanon has dropped down.
Yeah, understandably.
Wasn't helped for a while by I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the port basically blew up. There was no port for a while, and there was some fertiliser, I think, which hadn't been described properly as hazardous, and there was just a hole where the port was being. We're seeing a few volumes in there, but going back, that whole East Med area, I used to deal quite a lot with, but that would include Syria, and that's we probably know the reasons why there's nothing moving to Syria. Israel has always held up, even though it, particularly at the moment, it's sensitive politically.
Absolutely.
Egypt, as you say, there's good volumes, and we do a lot of. We're talking about the agents in Dubai. A lot of them control business to other parts of the world, including cross trading. So we put a lot of cargo into Egypt, which is controlled by our Dubai agents.
Yes.
So Egypt seems quite healthy to me.
It does. It comes up a lot here. Doesn't it?
Turkey as well. The other East Med countries, not so much really.
Peter, thank you so much. I introduced you as a legend and a wealth of knowledge, and you really are. And it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I'm sure
I do stand to be corrected on anything I said.
You're an absolute sage, Peter. An absolute sage.
Yeah.
And we'd love to welcome you back another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.